Oh.
Hello?
בחוץ.
Yes, hi.
Hi, I'm
I'm
danaei.
just trying to raise the volume here.
Okay, hold on. Wait a minute. No. Yeah? Okay, the whole class is here. I'm going to move the video camera as we speak. And thank you so much for being with us tonight. We're all very excited to speak with you. Do you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, because I don't, oh, you are, okay. Okay, so I explained to the students a little bit. The students have, for the most part, are knowledgeable with your work, and I have shown them the treatment of the in-transit project. And we are very excited to have this master workshop at Cinema South. And the students are basically here to hear about you and your vision and the vision for the project and what you would expect from them, and basically hoping for some guidance.
Yes. The students are putting your thoughts on the train project.
And they're going to work on it.
Yes. So Albert, they want to know your thoughts on the train project and what. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I guess you can hear me all right?
Yeah, yes. Hear you and see you.
Oh, good. Margaret Mead gave a speech years ago, a famous anthropologist. And she ended her speech by saying the most important thing is that we find common ground with one another on a national level, on a family level, on an international level, and I agree. And in a way, in a very important way, In Transit is the answer to that request. We'll be filming in half a dozen countries and filming spontaneous stories that we discover when we discover that a story is going to take place in the life of a person that we meet on the train. In other words, as we go around the train filming people, we'll discover at some point somebody where there's something interesting to be filmed when they get off, so we get off the train with them. And that story and another 5 stories from the other countries makes up the bulk of the film. But there'll be little stories that take place on the train as well. It's irresistible, the wonderful process that takes place on a train where people become friends, people who would never otherwise meet one another. That whole idea has always excited me, that one could record the life of people without having to interrupt, ask questions, or in any way control what's going on. The result of this film, I think, is kind of a romantic journey, because train travel has that kind of a romantic quality to it. But as Margaret Mead pointed out, common ground is so important. And it has its precedence, especially in a bunch of photographs that Edward Steichen put together. From 1 million photographs, he came up with enough for a gallery showing and for enough for a book. And it had the same kind of idea of common ground, in that his story, his photographs were taken by other people and all over the world. at different times. And so he called his collection, and his book, The Family of Man. I love that title. It has the same connotation for what we're doing in the train film. In fact, I was so excited when I saw his collection shown in an exhibition in Moscow in 1959 that I looked him up at the Museum of Modern Art when I got back to New York. And he was as excited about In Transit as I was about his book and his gallery show. I have, in fact, a collection of photographs that are taken in Russia and Poland and Hungary and in my family some years ago. And these photographs will be shown in galleries. But it's not anywhere near the vision of what will be comprised in this film called In Transit. Over and over again, we'll get to know people. I'm so excited about it, and always have been so excited about documentary filmmaking because it goes for the fact that it conveys better than anything else people having whatever that experience is. Childbirth, court trial, and also a lot of less serious sort of matters as well. So there are a few words that come to my mind that describe what's so special about what is so special about documentary filmmaking. If you take advantage of it at its best. One thing is relating the experience so that it becomes the experience for the viewer. What a fantastic gift. And we should make more use of the documentary for that purpose, as well as making friends with strangers or people who become friends as you watch them more and more on the screen. You feel a kinship. It becomes, as they say, becomes one world where we all can live in peace because so many films will, I hope, bring us that much closer to one another in a genuine friendship. Just about everybody that I've ever filmed has remained a good friend through the process of my filmmaking and through the process of seeing the films. I hope that millions of people will get the benefit of being engaged with people on the screen so that they share that experience. There's a wonderful thing. I've been filming children, age 6 or so, 2 at a time, and they got into talking about what was their favorite word, and this little 4-year-old boy came up with the idea that help is a very good word. They know what it is. They followed that up quickly with creativity. And of course, he's already beginning to understand why I'm filming kids of that age. They have so much to say and so clever at it. And then I turned to his friend, this girl the same age, so a little older, maybe 5, and she said, love. And that is the key to my filmmaking. The empathy that I share with people I film. First of all, it allows me access, and secondly, it puts aside for people that are filming any kind of nervousness about being filmed, because they feel that attitude of empathy and love surrounding them, and they feel quite comfortable. But we, as human beings, as filmmakers, we have the advantage that all human beings would rather disclose and keep a secret. And but then again, it depends on how the camera is being used, who's using it, and whether that person generates empathy or something else, which might put people off. And I'll always ask that question: how do you film without the camera shaking up things? And that's my answer to it. It begins from the very moment I meet somebody. They pick up something of kindness in my eyes, and it's smooth going from then on. And that's the kind of advice I give anybody that's making a documentary. Use the camera as a way of gaining friendship for yourself and for everyone that sees the film. Maybe you should ask some questions.
Yes, that's great. One second, I might translate a few of the questions, but otherwise the students will come up and ask a question. One second. מיון זה להתחיל.
אני אשאל. לא, אני הבנתי אותו, אבל...
Okay, I'm going to translate the first question. Okay?
אני רוצה לדעת למה רכבות ולמה לא אופנועים, אוטובוסים, מוניות שירות, אוניות. מה מיוחד כל כך ברכבת, ולהזכיר גם את העניין שבישראל, עם כל הכבוד.
Okay. A student wants to know what is so special about filming in trains. What are they different from a motorcycle, a bus, or a car? And why did you choose to do it in trains? And here in Israel we face a problem that the country is not that big, so the longest train ride that we can take is pretty much 2 hours and 15 minutes, which brings the train here closer to a subway. But still, we hope to achieve the same kind of feeling, or look for something that might be able to bridge those longer journeys into this reality, which is in Israel.
Well, the bulk of what we expected to do is come up with the stories that take place off the train. And so if somebody is on a 3-day train trip or a 2-hour train trip, really doesn't make any difference. The chances are just as much that someone on that train, long trip or short trip, is due to experience something very interesting when they get off the train. If I were to be filming in Israel, I would go back and forth.
What?
We don't hear anymore. 1 second. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here, now we hear you.
Yeah.
Do you expect us, would you like the students possibly also to film off the trains, or just to try and film on the train?
Well, if they just film on the train, I'm not going to use it.
Okay.
That's very helpful.
Yeah.
I'm only interested in the person on the train, which shows how I discovered the story to begin with, and then what happens when they get off the train. So it has to be both.
Okay.
Probably more challenging than anything that's given a student, but at the same time, all the more rewarding because it can be so rewarding, because this whole idea of strangers becoming friends, I think, is beautiful. In an atmosphere, especially these days of war and violence, this, I think, is a very peaceful journey to the heart and soul of a person who is being filmed on and off the train. If you have any doubts about the romantic quality of trains and how they do bring people together, and take a couple of train rides, and you see how it's so much more profound than a bus or an airplane. Although breaking all the rules, it may be a plane trip gives you a person with even a better story when we get off. But I think the train is the one that's more fluid, that sort of thing. I think there've been plenty of films of people on trains, but the documentary films, if I'm correct, are mostly simply interviewing people on a train. And we're not interviewing people. We're letting them speak for themselves, and so it's a more pure form of representing humanity. That's another word I love, humanize. I think that this whole idea of finding common ground humanizes people who otherwise are just numbers or names of countries or religions or whatever. It's a specific person with whatever differences there can be, with which we can find common ground. And that's what we're after. And I think it's possible to get it.
Okay, we have one other question.
Good.
Okay.
You talked about the importance of common ground. I hear you say it over again, and I wanted to know, for me, in my point of view, in Israel, there is, I don't know, in my point of view, in Israel there is kind of, for trains there is kind of a connotation? Yeah, of bad things. I don't know, maybe just me. But I mean, you talk about common ground and to show, like, in different countries and different cultures in the world, like common things, but do you want also to see the specific things in, like, that exist in our journey while Israel is on the train is different from, I don't know, Russian train, or, I mean, for me, I just say it, for me, trains is Holocaust. That's it. I mean,
What's so funny?
so I just, it's hard for me to just ignore that. What do you think about it?
The question is whether or not different connotations about trains that are embedded in Israeli society should come out in these films. I mean, even if that's, I guess, the director's point of view, or maybe the person riding's feeling about a train ride. Because the Holocaust is so embedded in people's psyche here that it's almost difficult to see a train without seeing the end of the journey.
Stop victimize yourself.
I don't know if that was so much of a, do you hear us?
Is that a train, that sound? Is that a train?
לא, הרעש הזה של
No, it's airplane.
המטוס.
It's a war.
זה אצלנו?
yeah.
אצלנו?
זה כן?
כן,
זה פה?
כן.
No, it's
Wow.
good.
Yeah, I guess there's some kind of warplane hovering over the. Don't know. This is common sounds here in the south. But I'll close the window so maybe you won't hear it. Okay, was the question clear or was it muffled by the sound?
I think I got the question, but and I can understand for a Holocaust survivor the special meaning of train. But maybe that sensibility can be used as a further insight into train travel because what we're talking about is people who are really benefiting from train rides, whereas of course in the Holocaust it was the way to death. The train is a way, can be, and usually is, and that's what we want to film. People on their way to friendship.
Yeah, thank you.
יש עוד שאלה?
כן.
כן,
חייב שאלה.
one more here, אתה חייב להתקרב כי לא...
חייב שאלות, זה לא נעים. לא, זה ממש...
I actually wanted to ask you, when you get up on the train, what do you do? Do you come up with the camera? Do you approach people with the camera? What do you ask them? Very interested in it.
How to start.
You explain that the film is going to get shown on television. It's in your own way of thinking of it. Say something nice about what the film is going to do. Perhaps the idea of common ground or whatever, or friendship, or whatever. Some positive way of looking at it, so that they think they're joining in on something very worthwhile. And all that you're asking of them is that you be with them, and from time to time you'll be filming what's going on. And please trust me that I will be looking to tell the real story without any kind of point of view to make it look good or bad. But I think a lot of goodness will come out of it. Something like that.
From what would be the expectations for what we would be screening in the master class? Would you like it to be a few scenes put together from the materials that we record, that we find?
It doesn't have to be the whole thing, just a feeling of what the story is all about, and something of the process of the train, of finding the right person.
You immediately go on the train with the camera. There's no. The process starts with the camera, right? It doesn't start with talking without a camera.
That's right, it's where the camera starts. The camera's there ready to shoot.
And do you go with a crew or by yourself? Do you think that?
Well, for me, it's very important, especially on trains, where it's difficult to get good sound. It's very important to get good sound. The primary weakness of so many documentaries is that the sound is not good enough. So you should have a professional sound person who would love to use an overhead microphone, but to me, I think that's too interfering So I prefer that the sound person use a very directional microphone and is trained so that he can get the best sound despite the noises of the train and such. So that's it. No lights, no tripod, just a handheld camera with somebody who knows how to use it, and a sound person who's professional.
Like mine.
Now, the other thing, the third thing is, if you're in a country other than people speaking English, then you're going to want, even if it's only just for the camera person, you're going to want a translator. So it can be as many as 3 people.
How about using a neck mic instead of a sound person, a wireless mic?
Yeah.
Is that possible instead of a sound a boom? A third person, meaning a crew of 2 people?
Right. Still have to get the sound of the person that person is talking to. But that is very helpful when you have a lavalier microphone with the person filming the subject. Sometimes you just feel that it's going to be too much of an invasion. And so rough the idea of using the lavalier. Most of the time you can, and it's a good idea.
Somehow, can you talk a little bit about the shooting itself, the kind of environments that we're filming, what to keep in mind when filming such stories or people? What are the kinds of materials that you look for when you go on these journeys with people? How do you decide how to position the camera and how to film them?
Well, whatever it takes, I want to get close up to the person. You use a zoom lens when you're at a distance, and when you're close up, you don't hesitate at the right time to fill the screen with that face. Not for hours, but for more time than usual. Otherwise, just the principles of photography. There are a couple of professional modes of filming that I don't appreciate. The idea of putting the subject over to one side of the screen or the other. The prison belongs where you normally look at 3 people, which is free control line within to the set.
יש עוד מישהו שאלות? They didn't understand the last part of what you said. Could you repeat the idea of these conventions, not to use conventions?
The 2 conventions that we don't appreciate are putting the person over to one side of the frame or the other when you're shooting. The other is holding back from very close and filming this full screen, face full screen. I think that could be very powerful, very best. Over to one side makes no sense at all.
Do you get on the train and basically sit next to somebody who might look interesting? I mean, how do you start? How does this work?
Well, I would suppose I don't take myself as being such an expert that I can tell each person what would be best as a method of getting access or whatever. I can only tell what find other ways of doing it too. So don't hesitate to use your own ingenuity. But the idea is to get close and get the good sound, and as clearly as possible to relate that person's experience. To begin to imagine the kinds of stories that might be found, I think you get kind of excited and say, it'll be all the more exciting when you actually have to think of it, filming something that really is beautiful, or sad, or joyful, or whatever is human and worth telling.
אנחנו מדברים, רק בן אדם אחד מדבר, או שזה מחפשים איזושהי סיטואציה?
The question here is does only one person talk, or are we looking for a situation? Like an interaction between a few people?
Oh yeah, it's not one person talking to the camera. No. It's it's an actual real life engagement. There's a wonderful word, entertainment, and I hope that your film will be entertaining. But when you look it up in the dictionary, there are two definitions. And I hope there's the one that you would use for your own direction is the word engagement. Film it so that it's engaging. The other definition is that version. You don't want to just throw some images on the screen that are not going to be picked up and remembered. No, you want to engage the person so that they feel so strongly what's going on that they can't forget.
So it's a kind of a little scene on the train, basically.
It's not more. It's not just a person alone. It's what's going on with wonderful people.
The scene on one situation, לא עם הרבה זמן שמתחדד, זאת אומרת זה real time לצורך העניין, אני שואל.
מה זאת אומרת?
זה לא כעבור יומיים הוא חזר לרכבת.
לא, אבל אנחנו כן יורדים איתו אחר כך, אז כן...
Also, I should say this, and I'm thinking of some of my own films. There may be moments when the person you're filming turns to you and has something to say, and you should get it. There's no reason to fool around and to expect that people are going to think, oh, the camera guy isn't there when you actually are there. So take advantage of your presence. And so if somebody wants to talk to you, that may be something for the film.
Meaning someone talking directly to the camera as opposed to the cameraman. But the conversation would be between the director and the person they're filming, or two people for that matter, right? Without filming the director.
אבל מישהו מאחורי המצלמה הוא חלק מהסצנה.
Yes. Most of the students here have.
Grey Gardens?
Yes.
Grey Gardens is a good example of what's behavior.
Right.
And there were many times when they were talking to each other, and then someone
Talk to you.
turned to me.
Yeah.
But you never heard me talking because I didn't say anything.
So you don't want to hear the actual voice of the director, of the person who is talking to the character.
Well, you don't want the famous movie maker, I forget his name right now, Hitchcock.
Weird about him, yeah.
Not a documentary guy, but that's all right. He said that in a fiction film, the director is God. In a non-fiction film, God is the director. So you have God on your side, and let God or reality do most of the work. Don't fool around with controlling what's going on, because what's going on its own, but you really have to. You have the opportunity to do something with ultimate veracity, and try to keep it that way with everything you know and every device that you might use.
Yes, there's one important question here.
אז אולי תשאלי אותה שאלה.
I'm going to translate.
אני רוצה לשאול אם צילום של הקטעים באנימציה זאת או אחרת, פיקסלציה בדרך זאת או אחרת, כאנימציה דוקומנטרית, המושג הזה בכלל, אם הוא קרוב אליך, מה אתה חושב על אנימציה דוקומנטרית?
We have a student here that is an artist and an animator. She is involved in documentary animations, and she came to the workshop because she was interested in doing an adaptation to the idea and using some form of animation to reinterpret the idea of in transit in her own vision, which is a vision of documentary animation, and whether this would be possible to do within the master class, to show it to you.
Love to see it. I know very well. There's always room for something new in the way you make a film, and of course in people's lives.
השאלה הזאת גם נשאלת, תרגמי יותר טוב פשוט, בגלל שהאג'נדה של אלברט היא אומרת God is a director, so כשאנחנו מצלמים אנימציה אז אנחנו חייבים לתכנן, אי אפשר לגמרי לא לתכנן, וחייבים איכשהו כן להתערב, יש פה התערבות.
The question is asked because when doing documentary animation, it somewhat, Olga, the student, says defies your principles or your philosophy that is so clear or so prevalent in your own work, where there is no interference, or not the kind of interference that requires an animator when they're trying to bring through documentary animation. So the question was, I guess, whether there's room for that in your vision as a filmmaker.
Just depends on, I suppose, on the animator being clever as to how that person can animate within the context of its presence in the documentary. I can see where it might work out very, very well. Not being an animation person myself, I can't say anything more about it.
But it might be an interesting scene to see within the context of all the other movies, in terms of a student working on something that is not exactly the films that are planned for the in-transit project, but something else, even just for the screening. How long would you like the pieces to be? For the master class?
Well, the story, there's a story that I filmed. I don't think it took more than 3 or 4 minutes. It's in my website. The woman who, when she was 3 years old, she lost contact with her mother, here she was at the age of 26 on a train bound for a railway station where her mother was waiting for her because her mother had just called her to say get on that train. And so when she got off the train, her mother was waiting for her, and they got together after 23 years of being apart. It's a beautiful scene. So that took only a few minutes, but I can see where the story might be 25 minutes long, and that's okay. Whatever it takes.
Anything else? Any more questions?
אני שואל אותו על הסרט הגדול, כאילו, שהוא מתכנן לעשות. אם זה באמת ישתלב בסרטים שלנו, או שזה חצוף.
There's one student that wanted to ask whether, if there's any, if you see any possibility for the films that are going to be produced here in the Master Workshop to be part of the larger film.
Yeah, sure. I would hope so. Be delighted. And of course, if that happens, you'll get full credit in the film. Won't that be nice?
Well, we're very, very much looking forward to having you here at Cinema South. It's a great honor to speak with you and to hear your vision, and the students are it's very late, it's late here, they're after a full day's work, and I'm sure they'll do their best to film to go and do something interesting with themselves on this trip on the train.
I'm going to be in Israel. Jay, when am I in Israel? Oh, I don't have the date, but sometime I'm going to be. There's some kind of a festival. It's a festival. It's a festival 10 miles from Portugal.
Yeah.
Yes. You mean the Spain?
Yeah.
Well, that's next week.
Oh, that's this week. I'm going to be tomorrow. I'll be in Spain.
Wow. Well, we're going to look forward to having you here in Israel. We'll wait for you with open arms.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We know how to reach you.
Yes.
Good.
We know where we are.
I'll let you know when I'm coming to Israel.
Excellent. Bye bye. Bye.
Bye bye. Goodbye.
Thank you. כן, מתי שיוצאים מהעולם הזה של הקולנוע וסידורים וזמנים, אז זה משהו אחר, אבל הוא היה לגמרי מפוקס על הסרטים.
אני חושב שהוא איבד קצת פוקוס אחרי הקטע עם השואה, הוא איבד פוקוס.
יוגב פגע בו. מצטער, נו.
לא, אבל הוא צדק, זו שאלה לגיטימית.
כן, אבל לא עם החיוך הזה.
לא, האמת שהשאלה שלי קצת כאילו הייתה מעבר לעניין השואה, זה ספציפית אני, אבל רציתי לדעת כאילו הקטע של בכל זאת יש בכל ארץ איזה משהו ספציפי למדינה עצמה.